everybody, it's Cody, Dixon RC here for week 2 of the Budget Build Series competition. This week we're going to be adding a radio system to this truck, something simple, something easy. But the difference in this one's going to be is I'm going to do just the receiver. I have a GT5 already. Receivers are relatively inexpensive, so I'm just going to do that route. That's going to kind of deter what we're trying to do here for you guys. If you're following along and kind of want to follow along with what I'm doing, if you don't already have a radio that you can buy a receiver separately for, then you're going to have to buy a whole radio. I'm not going to factor that in at all. It's going to be just a receiver because I've got tons of them, and I got a radio and I got a bunch of receivers, and every one of my vehicles run a BS6 receiver from Flysky that runs the 6-channel GT5. It's only $25. It's great to do. If you want to buy the whole unit, it's like $85 for the. You can get them cheaper from AliExpress and things like that, but I usually have them for about $75 to $85 depending on where I get it from at the time. That's for a full unit with a remote and a receiver. Receivers are $25, like I said. So if you haven't watched last week, go back and watch it to kind of understand what we're trying to do here. For week 1, what we installed was wheels. We put a set of G-made B-locks all the way around it, which is great. Adds a little bit of weight to the lower end of the truck, which is what we want. So after last week, we got $112.20 to roll over to this week, total with $75 plus what we rolled over last week. This is only $25, so that means we're going to have $87 left over for next week, which is really good. So I'm going to show how to put this in here. We don't really need to because I'm going to because you need to see how to take it apart because not everybody can do that, but it's fairly simple to do this. You put it in, swap 2 plugs, and done. That's it, pretty much it. But I do feel like this truck, after driving it, it needs a radio that's a little bit better than the stock one. I had a couple of brownouts from it just wouldn't go or didn't feel like it was getting any input from me. So got to fix that. Can't have that happening at all. So hang tight and we're going to come around. I'll show you how to put it in. All right, so when you're looking at the truck and you see everything lined up here, you see the ESC here, you see the motor here, servo's down here. Usually in a lot of other trucks, it's right here. So this can kind of go along with any kind of vehicle. See these 2 sets of wires here running into this box. This is what they call the receiver box. It is what this actually goes into. It's got one in there already with these 2 sets of wires hooked up to it. So you'll have to take a 2mm hex driver and you take these 4 screws out. It's pretty simple to do. All right, so once you have the last screw out, you take the plate off. Then you'll see in here there is basically a little O-ring that goes around it that tries to keep it as waterproof as possible, which it can't be super waterproof because there's a hole in it right here for where the receiver goes in. I don't know why they do that, but they do that. That does have waterproof, like a O-ring kind of deal that goes in here that each one of these wires go into. So you'll just take those out of there. Unplug the servo. Servo goes in channel 1. Channel 2 goes from your ESC. And then it's got some sort of double-sided tape usually that holds this on. I'm going to try and hopefully pop it out without breaking it. And I did. Nice. Didn't break it. Good. So it is a Flysky receiver. It is a Flysky radio, but it's not a very good Flysky radio in my opinion. It does have like, looks like little spots for, I don't know what those are. I would assume maybe a JST plug goes into that. Maybe we'll power up, power on your lights or something like that. I don't know what that is. That's pretty, that's different. I've never seen that before. So I'm going to leave this double-sided tape in here because it will actually work being there. I'm going to just set this down inside of here. Just like that. You know what? You could have left this just in here. Left these receiver wires just inside of this plug. It would have been fine. Now that I sit here and look at it, it would have been quite okay, actually. It's kind of wild at how much stuff on this truck that's the same as say a axial truck, because everything's very similar to an axial truck, which is fine because there's nothing wrong with that. But so you'll take the receiver plug for number 2, you put in number 2 for the ESC. Just got to make sure what your negative is, where your negative is. There's 2 there, and then number 1 there for your servo. Then take your remaining wires that's everywhere and just kind of shove them in there if you can. Especially that antenna wire, it does not need to come out of this hole because it has enough, it'll work fine regardless of where it's at in the truck. And put your O-ring back in. And then set your top back on and then tighten it down. And that's it. Tight, ready to go. Should just power on and then be good to go. Let's try that out. Alright, so let's power this thing on. So with this truck, you just plug in the battery, turns it on automatically. Switch our GT-5 on. And everything works like it's supposed to do. Go forward, go backward. The whole deal. Pretty cool. I'll have to go drive it now, see how it works. All right, so as you saw, that was a very quick one. Nothing to it. Basically, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to stockpile some money for the next week as well, because next week's going to be a big purchase. But it's something I think this truck really does need. So, like I said, this week we transferred over from last week $37.20. You add that to the $75 that we start with for every week. It gave us $112.20. We spent $25 on just a receiver, so it leaves us with $87.20 for next week. Next week's going to be a big week, so we need to stockpile some money up. So that was part of the reason why we did what we did this week. So that's it for this. Like I said, this was going to be a simple, quick one. Nothing to it, kind of crazy. Nothing wild on this one. Next week's going to be a pretty big one, so you want to watch that one for sure. But thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next week.